If it's something going on and it's work that needs to be done, typically I'm never the one sitting. And so even in a traditional church structure, I've kind of battled because I like being in the kitchen when it's a formal dinner. I'm the one that likes serving. So that's kind of who I am. And
welcome to the True Shots, where we deliver short, unfiltered moments of truth and inspiration designed to realign your path and awaken what's already inside you. I'm your host, Eric Foster, and today's episode is titled, A Powerful Truth. When you walk in your truth, your purpose and your passion align. This podcast is powered by Destinies by Choice Support Services, and today's conversation invites you to reflect, reset, and move with intention as we step into a new season. My guest today is more than a doctor. He's an educator, a pastor, a family man, and a voice of wisdom grounded in both faith and lived experience. His insight challenges us to live intentionally and become who we are created to be. So let's lean in, listen with open hearts. Let's allow this conversation to spark something new. And as we walk forward, aligned, grounded, and walking in our truth.
at the time I dealt with special education students, and I had a small classroom with 10 students. And I remember standing up still to this day, realizing on the first day in that classroom, that was what I was meant to do with my life. I had a feeling that it's hard to even describe, but it's how God put me on that path that I couldn't have imagined. So that forced me to go back to school to get the credentials, because at the time I had no credentials to be a teacher, which is miraculous in itself that that's what I was doing and had not been trained to teach. So I ended up going back to Hollins University, and I got a master's degree in teaching. And after that, I said, well, I want to get back into management, so I need to become a principal. And I went to UVA, and I got an educational specialist degree from the University of Virginia, and that allowed me to become a principal. God had the plan that I ended up becoming an assistant principal only for a year, and then I became a principal for many years. And I started a school called Forest Park Academy, and it was probably the most rewarding work that I've done. I was able to graduate a lot of students that was scheduled to drop out. They were scheduled literally to drop out, and we kind of changed it, me and the staff that I had been blessed with. We made a difference in a lot of young people's lives. And so after that, then I went into a central office position with Roanoke City Schools. But God had another plan. And while I was going through that, I did pursue from Regent University my PhD from that institution. Currently, I'm in Christiansburg, Montgomery County Public Schools as an elementary principal, and I'm happy as you could possibly find a person. I enjoy every day being able to touch the lives of 4-year-olds all the way up to 10 and 11-year-olds. It's a true blessing for me that God has allowed my educational track to get me to the place that I am today.
All right, so this is a two-part question.
Okay.
What do you love about being a principal, and what do you love about being a pastor?
All right, so being a principal, I think I've been so fortunate to connect with students that when I am in a grocery store, when I am in public places, and they come up and tell me the impact I made on their life, that would be the part that I love the most. Because sometimes when you're going through it, when you're kind of educating and you connecting with students, you don't realize that you are making a difference in that kid's life. And if you do it well, they will remember you forever. So that piece to me is really strong. I was blessed to go to my third grade teacher who every year called me on my birthday. Every year of my life, after third grade, we shared the same birth date. She would call me. And I share her story a lot because that's how intense the relationship between a teacher and a student can be. Now, this was a white lady that I was being bused into that particular school from a black neighborhood into a white school. But she connected with me, and that connection lasted until her 100th birthday.
Wow.
So she had a 100th birthday last year, and they had moved her to an assisted living home in Maryland. And remember, my birthday is on the same day as hers, and I traveled to be with her on her 100th birthday party. What was sweet for me is that when I walked in, she was trying to find the phone so she could call me.
Oh man.
So it was a real powerful moment. She just recently passed, and when she passed, her daughter called me and said, "I just want you to know how much my mother loved you." That was a relationship between a teacher and a student. So I kind of take that with me, and it's many students that one calls me Pops. He looks at me as his surrogate father. And so the bonds that I've created, I think, is what really stands out to me. It's the relationships that I've built. As a pastor, I think even a story that you started with today, that touches me in a way that it's hard to describe. Because sometimes I think, why me? You know, why have I been called to do this particular work? But then you get reminded that I'm able to hopefully save somebody's life. And, you know, often in church, we think about the afterlife, going to heaven. But my ministry, I want people to live the best they can live. I want them to be the best that they can be. So for me to see people that are saying, I used to kind of do this, but now I'm kind of doing a little better. That to me is what it's all about. It's that I want individuals to thrive and to make a difference in this world, and that all of us at some point, we're gonna all go. We're gonna all have a moment where we will transition to another life. And I want it to be said that the individual made their mark. They did what they were supposed to do while they were here. They made a difference and left the world just a little bit better. So for me, when I really go back and think about just the role of a pastor, that's the most important thing, is that if I can shape somebody or help shape somebody, because I think it all comes from God, but if the words that come out of my mouth can help somebody make it another day, or the words that come out of my mouth can help somebody be that better man or that better woman, I can't ask for anything else.
Okay. If there is one thing that you could tell the people, the kids, or just the people that's gonna see this video, one piece of advice.
So I think when I look back over my life, and I recently preached this message, that I realized there's no such thing as coincidence, that everything is purposeful. There is a reason for everything. Sometimes even when we have those dark moments and we get ourselves into some stuff that we know that wasn't God's plan, but we got ourselves into some stuff, I do believe God comes back to even use those moments to help somebody else. So personally, I would like to send the advice that don't think that things just happen by chance. Just know that we serve a God that is looking out and orchestrating every single thing for our good. So for me, the biggest advice is to really connect with a higher power. That sometimes you think you can make it on your own, you can get through this life on your own. But my advice would be to seek out, find that higher power, find that place and establish a relationship. Just like the relationships I spoke about with the students that I have, the church members, I believe those relationships with God is just as important. Yes, and that's the advice that I would give anybody going through this journey.
Between me and you, I haven't prayed so much in my whole life, man. I mean, all day, every day. And going through some heavy stuff and still being able to function, like, and not go backwards, that's a big thing for me, because normally when it get too heavy, I'm gone, you know.
I think that's everybody.
But mine don't look too good, you know. I normally wake up in a jail cell on my way to prison or in rehab. And this time around, I'll be 3 years clean in May.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And I know that you in the ministry has played a major part in that, in the transition of knowing that I do, like you said, God got me, you know. He's still in the miracle business. I know that, you know, and it's stuff like that that make me hold on a little bit longer, especially bringing the church in on New Year's Eve. That's normally time that the devil,
party time, right?
Doing the devil work then, but I've done it 2 years in a row. and at your church. And I believe it's set me in the right direction each time. And a couple times I know that I don't know what I would have done without being grounded as much as I have been, or connecting with good people, because where I'm from, I didn't know nobody that went to church other than my family. The people I knew in the streets, they ain't going to church. So when it was time to talk to somebody to get the right information or the right advice, they wouldn't come from a place of understanding. They would come from a place of, this is what I think you should do. They won't tell you, take it to God, pray about it, And for me, that is so strong and it's powerful because I know it works. I know it can change a situation, no matter how it looks on the outside. When he working in the inside. I was thinking in church for some crazy reason. I was like, when you was talking about the social media thing, and I was like, I wonder if God sent me a friend request, would I accept it?
Oh, that's a sermon.
Because if you accept it, you gotta accept a lot of stuff that come with it. It's like being called to be a pastor. Now, you can hear the calling for years.
And ignore it.
That's
right.
And run, and run, and run. And then that one day you be like, I'm tired. Do with me as you will.
Right.
Let your will be done, And I be fighting it. I know I do. I've always fought that. I have like 8, 9 pastors in my family. And I always, even by doing wrong, I always respected God. And I always didn't want to disappoint him. And I never played with him, and I understand too much is given, much is required.
Right.
And I take that to heart. And I'm gonna be honest with you, at one point, I did turn my back on God, was a part of the nation of gods and earths when I was in prison and all that stuff. And for a while, I thought that I controlled everything. I thought I was the reason I was who I was and why I was where I was at. And then when I almost died from a drug overdose and I didn't die, I knew it was something stronger than me. And I have a praying mom, man.
And that's the difference.
So, it's like, just to be able to talk to you outside of church, like it's a man-to-man conversation, is different because in church you kind of intimidating.
Oh no.
Yeah, because it's like me, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Like I don't want to, but like then you'll come with ain't nothing but a G thing intro, and I'm like, how does he know that? But now I know, I just want to just say, man, thank you.
You're welcome,
from
sir.
the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being the guidance that I needed and that I need, and being someone that I could trust, and I think every time I see you, you're the same person, no matter if it's at church, if you're doing an event, catering, you're the same person. And with that being said, tell me how important humility is.
Well, I think humility is everything. I mean, all woven throughout Scripture. And I'm not one to like toting a Bible because I think my life should be that example. But all throughout Scripture, we're encouraged to be humble. And so I feel it's a missing element in our world now. That, we walk around people and everybody kind of have to save face. Everybody have to kind of protect themselves. So I get it. But there are times when you can lower yourself. And again, my example is Jesus. He showed us how to be humble, yet he was still a king. So I think, as we kind of go through this life, we have to be able to let others know that it's all right. You can be proud. You can rep what you are repping, but at the same time that we have been called to be humble individuals. But to go back to kind of your story that you shared, I think, again, to everybody that's listening to this podcast, what's important that God gives us this story for a reason. Your story is yours for a reason. The things that you've incurred and went through. While I was listening to you, I'm like, he don't understand that all of that was designed for you to be able to help somebody else. So you can speak a language to others that I can't speak. And, often we forget about that our God is so amazing that we don't understand why certain things happen. But if you just accept his will, and I think, again, you're in that place, as you said, being in church on New Year's. Years ago, you wouldn't have done it. That's what God is all about. It's that who I am today is not the guy I was yesterday.
Right.
And so we got to know it's a process. And sometimes people want to wake up and be super with it, but it's a process. I would love to sit on this camera and say I don't make mistakes. I would, because that would make me feel really good right now. But the reality is I am still on the potter's wheel. He is still designing me. He's still getting some of that stuff that he don't like out of me. So I'm man enough to say, I don't have it all together. There's some days that I'm trying to figure it out too. There's some days that I'm thinking, what in the world just happened? And it is moments that I get into where, you kind of say, wait a minute, where is God in this situation? Mm-hmm. But that is why we have to practice. And this is, again, you mentioned this earlier. I kind of battled with why do a person need to go to church often? Because you can watch church on TV.
Yeah.
But it is something about being around positive people. It is something to be said about keeping your soul and your spirit man fed. So years ago, I wouldn't have believed in that. I thought you can be, and I still know people that don't go to church and they're okay. But when you are going through some difficult times, even for me today to stand up in the pulpit, I had a pretty rough last week. But I was able to even encourage myself with the words that was coming out of my mouth. So I think, going back to your question, being humble is actually just being real. We don't have to put on any fake faces and all that stuff in the world, that we all in this thing together. And if we doing it right, we trying to make sure that all of us get to that promised land that's been designed for us.
Okay. This is going to be the last question. It's always my favorite question. If you could tell your younger self something that they would need now.
I worried a lot about stuff that I shouldn't have been worried about. I was a kid that worried about everything. I remember my mother saying, son, you're going to make yourself sick. The reality is that I did. I went through a real difficult time with a lot of gastric type of issues. They did a lot of testing. And the end result, they came back and said it's all a result of stress. And that stress was coming from a place of worrying. Well, we know that's not a spirit that God gives us. Because if we trust God, what are we worrying about? If we know that God got us through whatever he got us through before, and we believe he'll get us through whatever we're going through now, why are we worrying? So the younger me that worried about everything about what I'm going to wear to school, what college am I going to go to? Am I going to get this degree? Am I going to make it to the next party? That was a lot of time that I should have been dwelling on other things. And so having kind of seeing if I could go back and talk to my little self, it would be, you don't need to worry. It's all going to work out. That would be my advice to my younger me.
Okay. Well, with that being said, I just want to thank you for allowing us into your home. It's a beautiful home.
Thank you, sir.
Because just that in itself means a lot to me, and just thank you for sitting down and taking time, because I know you're a busy man, and man, this is up there for me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
Well,
Thank you.
This is another episode of The True Shot. I just want to thank Mr. Dr. Eric Anderson again for sitting in here with us, giving us a little bit of hope, a little bit of inspiration. And I just want to say that throughout my days, I'm learning to allow myself to decrease so he can increase. So I'm going to take that throughout this week, I'm a decrease so he can increase. And thanks for tuning in. Peace.